This lawsuit appears to be harassment disguised as litigation. Judge Martinez looked directly at my parents. Mr. and Mrs. Sterling, your daughter earned her success despite, not because of, your support. This court finds in favor of the defendant on all counts and awards Maya Sterling her attorney's fees and costs. She paused, and what she said next made Marcus Webb close his eyes. Additionally, given the frivolous nature of this action and the clear intent to harass, this court is sanctioning the plaintiffs and their attorney $5,000, payable to the defendant. The gavel fell, and it was over. My parents sat stunned. Vanessa finally looked up from her phone, confusion replacing her bored expression. Marcus Webb gathered his papers quickly, clearly wanting to escape before Judge Martinez decided to add more sanctions. I felt Jennifer squeeze my shoulder. Professional victory mixed with genuine satisfaction. We had won completely, legally, publicly, but I wasn't done. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. The case had gained local attention, partly because of the novelty, a family suing their successful daughter to claim her property, partly because someone had leaked Vanessa's Instagram posts about deserving better. I had given one reporter exclusive access to the trial transcripts. Now the story was going regional, possibly national. My parents' reputation in their Charlotte social circle was about to become very complicated. Jennifer handled the brief press statement, professional and concise. Ms. Sterling's right to property she purchased with her own funds has been affirmed. The court found the lawsuit without merit and sanctioned the plaintiffs for frivolous litigation. Ms. Sterling hopes her family can now respect boundaries and her autonomy. I stood beside her, saying nothing, letting my calm presence convey everything necessary. No tears, no anger, just quiet victory. My parents tried to approach me as I walked to my car. My father started with, "Maya, we need to talk," his executive voice trying to regain control. I stopped, turned, and looked at him with an expression I had perfected during difficult client negotiations. "No, we don't. The court has spoken. My attorneys will be in touch about collecting the fees and sanctions. Do not contact me directly again." My mother reached for my arm. I stepped back. "I'm not interested in reconciliation. You sued me. You lost. That's the end of our relationship." Vanessa was crying now, real tears instead of her usual practiced variety, finally understanding that actions have consequences. "Maya, I didn't think they would actually sue you. I just said it wasn't fair that you had a beach house and I didn't have anything." I looked at my younger sister, 28 years old, never held a job longer than 3 months, living off our parents' money, and felt nothing but contempt. "You have exactly what you earned, Vanessa. Nothing. I have what I earned. Everything. That's actually perfectly fair." The weeks following the trial brought consequences my parents hadn't anticipated. The local Charlotte newspaper ran a detailed story about the case, focusing on the documented favoritism and frivolous lawsuit. My mother's country club friends, the same women who sat in the courtroom expecting to witness my humiliation, instead became sources of gossip about Patricia Sterling's parenting failures. Several of them had successful daughters who immediately identified with my situation, and my mother found herself suddenly uninvited from her regular lunch group. My father's business reputation took an unexpected hit when one of his former colleagues shared the article in a professional network, commenting on the ethics of suing your own child for property they legitimately purchased. Robert Sterling had spent 40 years building a reputation as a shrewd but fair executive, and watching him try to legally steal from his daughter shattered that image. 3 nonprofit boards quietly asked him to step down, not wanting the association with someone who would weaponize the courts against family. Vanessa's Instagram following actually grew initially, people drawn to the drama, but her attempt to play victim backfired spectacularly. She posted a lengthy story about being caught in the middle of family conflict and how some people prioritize money over relationships. Her followers, now aware of the full context, flooded the comments with questions about the $170,000 she had received while I got nothing. When she deleted the post and disabled comments, screenshots had already spread across multiple platforms. Jennifer collected the attorney's fees without issue, $38,000 that my parents paid within the required 30 days. The $5,000 sanction took longer, requiring Jennifer to file a motion to compel payment. My parents' attorney, Marcus Webb, paid his portion immediately, desperate to distance himself from the disaster. My parents dragged their feet until Judge Martinez threatened contempt charges, then paid in a cashier's check delivered by courier, unable to face the humiliation of handing it over personally. I returned to my normal life with surprising ease, the trial more validation than trauma. Work at Anderson & Associates continued with new energy, my successful defense of my property earning respect from partners who appreciated someone who didn't roll over under pressure. I was assigned lead architect on a $15 million mixed-use development in Durham, the kind of high-profile project that would have been years away without my demonstrated competence under pressure. The beach house became my sanctuary in a new way. No longer just an achievement, but a symbol of independence fully defended. I spent weekends there alone, working on design projects from the deck, swimming in the Atlantic, existing in a space that was completely, legally, irrevocably mine. I changed nothing about the security system or access protocols. My parents and sister were already locked out literally and figuratively. My extended family took sides predictably. My father's brother called to say I had destroyed family unity over just a house, apparently forgetting it was my parents who filed the lawsuit. My mother's sister, Aunt Patricia from Seattle, sent a care package and a note saying she had watched my mother favor Vanessa for years and was proud I finally stood up for myself. Cousins I barely knew sent Facebook friend requests, some supportive, others clearly just wanting gossip access. 3 months after the trial, I received an email from Vanessa's address with the subject line, "Can we talk?" I deleted it without opening. 2 weeks later, a handwritten letter arrived at my office, my mother's distinctive cursive on expensive stationery. "Maya, this has gone on long enough. Family is more important than pride. Your father and I are willing to forgive if you'll just apologize for the embarrassment and consider letting Vanessa stay at the beach house occasionally. She's struggling and you have so much." I photographed the letter, sent it to Jennifer for the legal file, and fed the original through my office shredder. My father tried a different approach, showing up at one of my project sites in Durham unannounced. I was conducting a walkthrough with the developer and general contractor when Robert Sterling appeared, trying to use the public setting to force a conversation. "Maya, I need 5 minutes. This is important." I looked at him the way I looked at contractors who tried to cut corners, professional ice. "You're trespassing on a construction site without authorization. Leave now or I'll call security." The developer, who had read about the lawsuit, personally escorted my father off the property. What my parents didn't know was that I had begun documenting everything for a potential restraining order. Every unwanted contact, every manipulation attempt, every boundary violation went into a file with Jennifer. We weren't there yet, but the groundwork was laid if they escalated. Jennifer advised that judges were generally sympathetic to adult children trying to establish independence from controlling parents, especially with our trial victory establishing a pattern of behavior. Vanessa's situation deteriorated in ways that would have made me feel guilty before the lawsuit, but now just felt like natural consequences. Her Instagram engagement dropped as followers realized she had no actual content beyond complaining and posting sponsored products she received free. 2 brands dropped her after discovering her true follower count versus engagement ratio, bots and fake accounts artificially inflating her numbers. She moved back in with our parents after her roommate situation fell apart, claiming it was temporary. My mother's attempts to restore her social standing became increasingly desperate. She volunteered for every charity committee, hosted elaborate dinner parties, and told anyone who would listen a revised version of events where I had misunderstood their intentions and overreacted with legal action. The problem was too many people had read the actual trial transcripts now available as public record. Her revisionist history convinced no one who mattered. I celebrated my 33rd birthday in September at the beach house, inviting colleagues from work and friends I had made independent of family. 20 people filled the deck, drinking wine and watching the sunset, no one present sharing my DNA. Jennifer came, having become a genuine friend beyond our attorney-client relationship. She gave a toast that made everyone laugh. To Maya, who proved that the best revenge is living well, and the second best revenge is excellent documentation. During the party, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Happy birthday, sweetheart. I hope you're not spending it alone. Family should be together on important days." I showed the message to Jennifer, who photographed it for the file. Then I blocked my mother's number. I had spent too many birthdays watching my parents fawn over Vanessa, while treating my achievements as expected obligations. Spending this one surrounded by people who actually valued me felt like the real gift. October brought an unexpected development when I received a LinkedIn message from a journalist writing a book about family estrangement and adult children who cut off toxic parents. She had followed my case and wanted to interview me for a chapter on financial abuse and favoritism. I agreed, seeing an opportunity to tell my story in a context that might help others recognize similar patterns in their own families. The interview took place over video call. 2 hours of detailed questions about my childhood, the documented favoritism, and the lawsuit. The journalist, Dr. Rebecca Morrison, specialized in family psychology and had interviewed hundreds of estranged adults. "Your case is textbook," she explained. "Parents who overfunction for one child while underfunctioning for another, then express shock when the neglected child establishes boundaries. The lawsuit is just an extreme example of their inability to accept that you're not obligated to compensate for their parenting failures." Dr. Morrison asked about my emotional state, clearly expecting trauma or ongoing pain. I surprised her with my honesty. "I grieved the family I should have had years ago. The trial just formalized what was already true. They don't love me the way parents should love a child. They love the idea of controlling me, of taking credit for my success while providing none of the support. Accepting that freed me." She paused her recording. "That's remarkably healthy," she said. "Most people I interview are still seeking their parents' approval on some level. You genuinely don't care anymore." I smiled. "I stopped caring when they sued me. You can't hurt someone emotionally once they fully understand you're incapable of loving them properly." The article, published in November, part of a series on family estrangement in a major national magazine. My case was featured prominently. With permission, I used only my first name, but anyone in Charlotte who knew the story would recognize the details. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of comments from readers sharing similar experiences, thanking me for speaking openly, describing their own golden child siblings and scapegoat childhoods. My parents saw the article. I know because my father sent an email to my work address, his only remaining contact method, calling the article a betrayal of family privacy and threatening to sue the magazine for defamation. Jennifer responded on my behalf, noting that everything in the article was documented fact from public court records, and any lawsuit would result in additional sanctions for frivolous litigation. We never heard from their attorney again. Vanessa's response was more public and more stupid. She posted on Instagram claiming the article was full of lies and that she was the real victim of Maya's narcissistic need for attention. She included a selfie of herself crying, which her remaining followers immediately called out as obviously staged, makeup perfect, lighting professional. The post stayed up for 3 hours before she deleted it, but screenshots lived forever. Her follower count dropped by another 1,000. December brought the holidays, traditionally the worst time of year for family conflict. My phone filled with messages from extended relatives asking about my plans, many fishing for gossip about whether I would attend family gatherings. I made my position clear. I would not be attending any event where my parents or sister were present, and anyone uncomfortable with that was welcome to celebrate without me. Aunt Patricia invited me to Seattle for Christmas, genuinely wanting my company, not drama. I accepted. The week before Christmas, a process server arrived at my office with new legal documents. For a moment, I thought my parents had been stupid enough to file another lawsuit, but the papers were actually a petition from Vanessa, requesting to be added as a co-owner of the beach house based on verbal promises I had allegedly made. Jennifer took one look and laughed so hard she had to sit down. "She filed this pro se," Jennifer explained, meaning without an attorney. "She doesn't understand property law, contract law, or apparently the concept of learning from mistakes. This will be dismissed immediately, and she might face sanctions of her own. We filed a motion to dismiss with prejudice and a motion for sanctions for filing a frivolous claim. We also filed for a restraining order, arguing that the repeated legal harassment constituted stalking. The hearing was scheduled for January, meaning my Christmas in Seattle would be peaceful, but the new year would start with another courtroom confrontation. I wasn't worried. I was prepared. And this time, Vanessa would face a judge without our parents' attorney to guide her, just her own entitled delusion against documented reality. The hearing for Vanessa's property claim took place on a freezing January morning, the kind of cold that made walking from the parking garage to the courthouse actively painful. I arrived with Jennifer, both of us carrying briefcases filled with evidence we probably wouldn't need. Vanessa's petition was so poorly constructed that the judge would likely dismiss it in minutes. What we didn't expect was the crowd. Vanessa had apparently decided that if she was going to lose, she would make it performative. She stood on the courthouse steps with her phone mounted on a small tripod, recording herself talking about fighting for justice against family betrayal. A handful of her remaining followers had actually shown up, mostly young women who seemed to think this was some kind of influencer event rather than a legal proceeding. Security had to clear the steps to allow normal court business to continue. Inside, Vanessa sat alone at the plaintiff's table, dressed in what she clearly thought made her look professional, but actually looked like she was attending a funeral in a clothing store's clearance section. She had printed her petition from a template she found online, the formatting inconsistent and the legal arguments nonsensical. She kept glancing at the gallery where her small group of supporters sat, playing to her audience even in a courtroom. Judge Martinez, assigned to the case because of its relationship to the previous lawsuit, looked at Vanessa's petition with barely concealed contempt. "Ms. Sterling, do you have legal representation?" Vanessa straightened in her chair. "I'm representing myself, Your Honor. I can't afford an attorney because my sister has all the family money." Judge Martinez's expression suggested she was already regretting accepting this assignment. "Ms. Sterling, this court does not provide legal advice. You filed a petition to be added as co-owner of property titled solely to your sister. What is your legal basis for this claim?" Vanessa launched into a rambling explanation about fairness, family, and how I had implied she could use the beach house whenever she wanted. So obviously I meant she should own part of it. Judge Martinez interrupted repeatedly, trying to get Vanessa to cite actual legal precedent or contract law. Vanessa had neither, just feelings and entitlement dressed up in legal-sounding words copied from internet forums. Jennifer's response was surgical. She presented the deed showing my sole ownership, the mortgage documents showing my sole financial responsibility, and the complete absence of any written or verbal agreement giving Vanessa any ownership claim. She then presented transcripts from the previous trial, where Vanessa herself admitted having no financial contribution to the property. "Your Honor, this petition is factually baseless and legally frivolous. Ms. Vanessa Sterling is attempting to use the courts to obtain through litigation what she cannot obtain through legitimate means, access to property she has no right to." Judge Martinez didn't even need to deliberate. "Ms. Sterling, your petition is dismissed with prejudice, meaning you cannot refile it. Property ownership is a matter of legal title and financial contribution, not hurt feelings or perceived unfairness. Your sister owns this property. You do not. This court's time has been wasted on a claim that has no legal merit whatsoever." She paused, and her next words made Vanessa's face go pale. "Furthermore, given that you filed this action after your parents' similar claim was defeated and sanctioned, this court finds your petition to be in bad faith and sanctions you $1,000, payable to your sister within 30 days. Vanessa stood up, forgetting courtroom protocol. "That's not fair. She has millions and I have nothing." Judge Martinez's gavel cracked like a gunshot. "Sit down, Ms. Sterling. Your financial situation is not your sister's responsibility. If you wish to improve your circumstances, I suggest finding employment rather than filing frivolous lawsuits." This hearing is concluded. Outside the courtroom,